Alright, so a quick little video today on some minor electronic components for the 1977 MGB. First thing that we're going to go over today is the diodes. Diodes, if you're not familiar with how diodes work, they allow electricity to flow in one direction but not in the other direction. And that's kind of where the, you see that little icon right there, it has an arrow and then a block. So basically it says electricity can go one direction but not the other. On the MG, there's two of these, and if your diodes are burned out, one of the symptoms is that when you pull the handbrake, your starter will engage. It's kind of weird, but it's a thing. And there's a couple other weird symptoms. And if you're curious about whether or not your diodes are working, I'm going to show you real quick how to test a diode. Here's the replacement parts that we're buying today that we're gonna put in its place. These are some backing diodes available on Moss. These don't specifically come up under the MGB. I don't. There's some gray areas in there, but I did find what looks like the right part. This is A75294. And it's listed and available in Moss. So let me show you real quick how to test a diode and make sure that your diodes are working. So if you have a voltage ohmmeter, or a VOM for short, normally you're testing your battery power over here in the 20 volts DC, or occasionally you'll be in the ohm meter here looking for continuity. But there's one little checkbox over here. You can see that. There's no numbers. It just says it's got a symbol for a diode right there. Oh, is that clear enough? Yeah. So anyway, if you put it into diode mode, and you'll see the meter will go to a 1. If you want to test a diode, you basically want to make sure, let me prop this up a little, that electricity only flows in one direction, right? So here's the burnt out diodes. If I put it here, and I put it there, you can see, whoops, let me go ahead and let you see. It responds. And if I flip it around the other direction, and I go like this, you see that responds as well. So it doesn't really matter which direction that you put the data. It's allowing electricity in both directions. Here's the other one here. It works in both directions, right? So these are shot, and here's the new one. So these have a little different little connector here, but so if I put the red one on the outpost and I put the black one on the in post, you can see we have electricity that will flow through there. But if I turn it the other direction, I test it this way, there's no flow. See, nothing happens. So that's what it should look like when a diode is good. It should go in one direction, but not in the other. Nothing. See that? So that's how you test a diode. If you have a problem with your MG and it's acting funny, doing some weird stuff, you could very well have some bad diodes. So you can take these out. They're really easy to get to. They're just right underneath the dash. You can reach back and unplug them directly. They're in line, so you just pull the wires out. If you're curious about how to put them back together, there's only one way that they go. There's a positive and a negative. There's a male and a female. And in the wiring harness, likewise, you have a male and a female connector where they go. So there's only one way to go. And so you won't have to worry about mixing those up. They're really easy to replace. You saw how easy it is to test them. So let's move on to flashers. On my car, I had two different kinds of flashers. I had this round one here, and I had this one. This is square one, this original Lucas, 12 volt, 12 amps max. This one, the mount that was connecting to it was like really rusted out. So I think that it had seen some better days. But oddly enough, this one worked. but this one didn't. This one had been replaced somewhere down the line. I don't even know if this is the proper part or not. It looks like it has the right kind of connectors on it, but it failed and it didn't work. One of the flashers is for the hazards, and the other one is for the blinkers. So when you're applying your blinkers, one of them activates, and when you have the hazards on, then this one handles that. There's two different kinds of flashers that you can buy on Moss. The replacement parts that we purchased here, these are the electronic version. Electronics, if you can see inside there's kind of a circuit board, and then there's a relay right here that turns it on and off. Click, 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 click. That's what you hear when the blinkers are going off. There's a little capacitor in there that changes the circuit back and forth. Anyway, it's the same kind of connector. It has an L and an X. And you see this one actually came with a mounting bracket. So we're going to replace that nasty, rusty old mounting bracket that this one was connected to. But the other kind of flasher that you can still purchase, instead of the electronic ones, are the heat ones. The way that, and imagine if I were to take this one apart, although it still works, I don't want to take it apart. If you were to take this one apart, instead of having an electronic circuit board in there, like this one does, to control the on and off, it has a little relay in there that will heat up, and when it reaches a certain point, the magnet loses continuity and it turns off, and then it cools off, and then the magnet creates connectivity and it turns back on again. So that's where you get the click click, is it heats up, builds resistance, and then turns itself off by failing in succession. That's how your blinkers work. That's kind of a legacy method. I don't know if it makes a difference whether you mix the electronic circuits with the heat-oriented circuits, but today we're going to replace both of these with the electronic version. Here's the part number for that, 141748. So let's go ahead and get under the dash and replace these components. All right, so here you see I got the glove box out of the car, and you can see right here, these are the wires where the diodes would connect. You see there's a female one and a male connector, and it's just plug and play, off you go. Now I'm going to put a little heat shrink around these. These used to have rubber booties on them, but the new ones have a different method, and those rubber booties were making it difficult for those to connect. So I'm gonna put some heat shrink around this back part of this connector, and the diode has a little sleeve that slides over the top part here. These have a rubber booty on them, and we're going to keep that on there because that's for the male side of the diode. But it's just plug them in and off you go. Everything's great. So that's a really easy solution. Now on to the flashers. So underneath the dash, you see these little mounting brackets. These are where the original flashers went. Again, I had one of the square ones, and then I had a round one that we had just zip tied to one of these connectors. And so these are screwed in. We're just going to take these screws out and put our new connectors in, and then we'll install our flashers. Let's get to that. All right, there you go. You can see I got the new brackets installed. Let's go ahead and get these wires in there. So the connectors on here, if I can do this without a flat, without making too much glare, but you'll see on here, this one has a X at the top, and this one down here has a L, and the L will go to the light green. Now there's 4 wires here, so there's 2 circuits, right? The brown and then the green with the light brown, that's this one right here. These are for the hazards. Think of it like this: brown wires are unswitched. They are hot even when the ignition is out of the car. And so if you were to put your hazard blinkers on, you wouldn't want to leave your keys in the car while you walk off to get a gallon of gas or whatever, and you still need your blinkers on. So this is the hazard flasher. The light green, the rule of thumb on these, the light green will go on the post that says L on it. This is this one right here. So if you put the light green on the L and then the brown or the dark green, whichever one that you put on there is on the X, then you'll be golden. I'm gonna go ahead and install these, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Of course, the geometry has changed. These switches are much bigger than the square switches, so I couldn't use the same holes in the same positions for these. So we had to switch them up a little bit. And there they are installed. I think I'm going to move this one again. I don't like the way that wire's hanging. Alright, well, we'll figure it out. But, you know, nothing's easy, so we'll switch that around. Alright, so there you go, final resting place. I actually had to move this bracket further away so that the connectors wouldn't run into the back of the windshield wiper motor. But anyway, there you go, 2 electronic flashers connected. Let's go ahead and put these diodes on just so you can see what they look like. Alright, there you go, diodes installed. They have these little sleeves on them. Just kind of slip around. Alright. So in case you're wondering how the diodes got burned out, I want to add a little footnote here before we close up. Installing the dash and the dash wiring sub-harness in there, and when I put the dash in there, you know, you just connect all the wires, right? It's like blink, 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 and you assume that everything that fits is where it goes. Well, that's not the case, actually. And so I want to point out something so that y'all don't burn your diodes out or pop fuses like I did. So when you're connecting the dash circuit, you'll notice this little connector right here. It has a triangle at the top and a square at the bottom. See how it's square at the bottom? Well, guess what? This one up here is also triangle at the top, square at the bottom. So, yep, you guessed it. I connected them the wrong way around and caused a little bit of a problem there. So, when you're connecting these wires, just kind of eyeball them and make sure that you have the colors are matching up on one side or the other. In this case, you know, I have a brown here and a brown here, so black here and a black here. When you're connecting them, it's not necessarily if it fits it fits it chips. you have to match them up. And so I imagine that's might have been what I did to destroy the diodes. I did blow a couple of fuses, but thankfully I didn't do any other damage. But there you go. The last thing I want to cover is a little harder to get to, but it's up in there. I think we'll do a separate video on the voltage control. So I covered that in the previous video, but there was one guy who had a problem with that, but we'll cover that later. So those are some really basic little things that y'all can take care of real easy. I imagine it's the kind of thing that you know, everybody runs into. The flashers will go out or the diodes will go out. They're really easy to get to. You just pull the dash out or the glove compartment out and you'll get access. You don't even really need to pull the glove compartment out. You can work from underneath. But you know, for my purposes, I need to get a good video. So there you go. That is minor electrical work, flashers and diodes on a 1977 MGB. If you have any comments or questions or anything on this video, please be sure to make a comment. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, share with your friends, and get the word out there. We want to find more people with MGBs that have some questions and can follow the project. So there you go. Have a good weekend.